I awoke from my afternoon nap sometime before 7 o'clock. I remember because it was a voice from the street that woke me, crying, "It struck 6 long ago." It was faint, but despite my age, I have retained my keen sense of hearing throughout the years. As always happens when I wake, I was immediately struck with an intense urge to check on the pledges that I have stored in a variety of places in my small room, the chest of drawers, under my bed, etc., etc. So again, I went through the motions that had become so routine of pulling the string to which I have attached my keys over my head and one by one unlocking each drawer and chest and checking that everything I expect to be there is in fact still there. One might wonder why I am so worried, as my doors have sturdy locks. It is that annoying Lizaveta who I have been stuck with. She may seem submissive and timid, but that is only because I put her in her place time and time again. You can never be too careful with these types. Give them an inch and they will take a mile. I have been told that I have been too cruel and exacting, not only to that poor Lisa, but to those who pawn their silly trinkets with me. Well, why shouldn't I be? The world is cruel, and it is eat or be eaten. Curse these circumstances that I am forced to live in. I could have been the wife or some officer and had a few lovely children. But no, I was stifled by Lizaveta's low rank, her promiscuity, and the burden of having to take care of her. She owes everything to me, so of course she should strive to be of service to me. I only berate her as she continuously falls short. And for those men and few women who leave pledges with me, if I were not strict and exacting, they would take advantage. And indeed, they are the sorts to do so. Those who cannot get by via honorable means and must sell that which their successful forebears worked for are only kept in line via strict deadlines. And if you give them an inch, well, you know. However, this general attitude can backfire, which is why I always assume that Lizaveta might have taken her revenge by stealing some of the pledges. That would be the only way she could undermine me, as she is too meek to ever confront me head-on. Those who leave pledges. Once I was done with my checking, I threw my flannel and yellow fur cape over my shoulders, as I was unrelentingly bothered by the cold, and went out into the main room. To my surprise, Lizaveta was nowhere to be seen, which is unusual for her at this time. That crafty lass, she must have slipped out while I was asleep, for God knows what. Soon it was 7:30, and I heard a creaking on the stairwell. Was it Lizaveta? Or those pesky painters again, always bothering me? Those footsteps grew louder, all the way up to the 4th floor, and suddenly stopped right in front of my door. These were the footsteps of someone far quicker than Lizaveta, who always sulks around. There's a strong sense of anticipation in these footsteps, but they were not bold. Somebody did not want to be noticed. Ha! Nothing could get past me. Soon my doorbell rang, but at this hour, and without Lizaveta home, I was wary to answer. I assumed they would just leave and come back later, as these types have little patience. But soon enough, it rang again. I walked over and pressed my ear to the door to see if I could deduce further who it was. I could almost hear their heart pounding. Somebody was very anxious to see me. Possibly, they were absolutely desperate for money. I might have been able to work out a deal where I only offered a triflingly small sum for whatever they pawned. I heard a man's voice mumbling under his breath, and again, another ring. Either desperation or insanity, often with the former leading to the latter. I could not resist such a good deal, so I decided to open the door. The moment the crack was large enough, I peered out to see who it was. It was Raskolnikov, a young man who had pawned a ring with me over a month ago and a watch just a few days ago. I had always been especially wary of this man, as there was something in his attitude where he seemed internally conflicted, one moment deciding to do one thing and then immediately switching. He was a low-risk, high-reward kind of guy, though, because I did not give him much money, but he was often late, and I could thus charge him high interest. If you deal with enough of these men, you find that a majority of them end up paying you after some time. Their unreliability ends up resulting in quite a nice profit. Alas, back to the story. He was in such a frenzy that the moment I unlatched the door, he sharply pulled it open, which caused me to nearly fall into the stairwell. This naturally unnerved me, but I was determined not to let it show. One must always maintain a sense of calm detachment in these scenarios to hold the upper hand. He said, "Good evening, Alyona Ivanovna. I have come, I have brought something, but we better come in the light." Aha, I thought. His manner of speaking betrayed him. Although his actions may have seemed bold, he was clearly uneasy, as his voice was unsteady and clearly frightened. But then he strode right past me. This man is full of contradictions. Good heavens, I said. What is it? Who is it? What do you want? Even though I knew precisely who it was and what he wanted. When he pawned the watch a few days ago, he mentioned that he had another item he wanted money for. But I hoped that my attitude would disarm his defenses. He said, Why, Ilyana Ivanovna, you know me, Raskolnikov, here. I brought you the pledge I promised the other day. And he held out a small item wrapped tightly with string. He suddenly appeared to be fearful of me, and I knew that I could now be more stern to fetch a better deal. He said, through a thin veil of confidence, clearly masking his unease, Why do you look at me as if you do not know me? Take it if you like. If not, I'll go elsewhere. I'm in a hurry. But why? I said. My good sir, all of a minute. What is it? The silver cigarette case. I spoke of it last time, you know, he replied. I took the item and was instantly doubtful, as it did not weigh nearly as much as silver should have. He's likely trying to swindle me, I thought. It was clearly comical, and I decided to play with him a little bit and said, But how pale you are, to be sure. Your hands are trembling. Have you been bathing or what? This clearly worked, as he responded quickly and defensively, but also chaotically. Fever, you can't help getting pale if you have nothing to eat. His defenses were clearly crumbling. I pushed again. What is it? And he could barely get the words out. A thing, a cigarette case, silver. Look at it. And he looked as if he were about to pass out. I went to untie the trinket, thinking that I had him in my web. It was absurdly tightly fastened, and I began to get frustrated and exclaimed, What has he tied it up like this for? Suddenly, I looked up and saw a sinister smile on Raskolnikov's face, and felt as if I was standing in front of a madman. And I was, possibly for the first time in my life, truly frightened. I moved towards him as to try to conceal my fear, but suddenly